Welcome to another episode of Purchase to Profits. I'm Seth Ferguson. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our daily interviews with successful real estate investors. And I've put together the top 7 key market drivers I look at when analyzing a real estate market. Go to sethferguson.org to download your free copy. Our guest today owns 13 rental properties and has achieved financial independence. He's a TEDx speaker and now works as a realtor to help others with their property. Diego Corzo joins us today. Diego, welcome to Purchase to Profits. It's great to have you on the show.
Very excited to be here, Seth. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So you are a famous TEDx speaker, let's say. You are financially free. You've got all this cool stuff going for you. But let's talk first about your real estate goals right now. What do you want to do with real estate?
Yes. So in the coming future, I am going to be selling. So I own a couple of properties, some in Austin, some in Tennessee, and some in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm going to be selling my C-level houses, and I'm going to be investing that money into more multifamily and syndications. So I'm going to be taking more the passive investor role from that perspective.
Yeah. And, especially in your situation now where you're not in that, build phase to get financially free, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because it's a little less time intensive on that side.
Yeah, for sure. And I am trying to leverage the opportunity because of the connections and my network now to be able to invest in those kinds of deals.
For sure. So are you going to try and 1031 once you sell into a syndication?
So right now I'm in the phase where I'm trying to learn what are going to be the best ways to sell them and be able to invest into a syndication, whether it is just me or I form another LLC with a business partner, right? Because some syndications, you need to be an accredited investor, and I am not an accredited investor yet. But there's other ways to be able to invest into those kinds of deals. So right now I'm doing the research. For my first one, probably not, just so that I can get my feet wet as soon as possible, learn what I need to learn, and then for the other properties, I'll be able to 1031 exchange.
Gotcha. That's really exciting. Because like getting in on the syndication side is going to take your portfolio to the next level.
Exactly. So I'm very, very excited about that.
Yeah. So do you have any thoughts about, hey, I want to be invested in 1,000 units? Do you have any targets like that at this point?
I don't have a unit number, but I do want to get my passive income to be at least $10K a month.
Nice.
Right now, I am half of that.
Yeah.
Or a little bit less than half of that. So the goal is once I get to 10K, then I know I can do a lot more things that way. Yeah. Whether that is through 50 units, 100 units, or 1,000 units, I don't know yet, but that's the goal, the number.
Yeah. And, going back in time, when you first started acquiring some properties, was your goal always to hit that financial freedom number, or did that kind of come about later on?
So I always wanted to, ever since I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was 21, I wanted to achieve a level of financial independence and build wealth. So I knew that I was going to live below my means and invest it into passive income. Later, I really found out okay, I can definitely reach a level of financial independence in my 20s, and I do not, or in my early 30s. Let's say I'm 28 now, and I do not have to work in corporate America. So I always had the mindset that I was going to leverage my W-2 job as much as I could so that I can get into good debt. And when I was ready to pull the trigger, I was going to leave and go into real estate full time. But I knew that no matter what, financial independence was always going to be the journey that I wanted to achieve, the goal that I wanted to achieve.
Yeah. So along the way, did you hit any plateaus as you were building your portfolio?
I hit some obstacles and plateaus for sure, but the obstacles in the beginning were the hardest ones. So my situation is that I am a dreamer and I am part of the DACA program, right? So with those things come even a lot more obstacles because I couldn't work or drive till I was 22 years old. And when I began to, so I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was 21. At 22, 23, I finally was able to work and drive. And at that point, I was like, okay, I want to invest in real estate, all the income that I have through my job. Well, a lot of the loan officers had no idea what DACA was. And they were like, if you don't have a green card or you're not a citizen, you cannot buy a house. So I ran into a lot of obstacles that way. And it wasn't until the first two properties I had to buy, the first property I had to buy cash with my dad. Fortunately, we were able to buy a house for $60K in Florida. And then later, that's when I was able to be able to apply for conventional loans and be able to start house hacking, which is the strategy that I used to get started in real estate as a millennial. So I did hit those obstacles in the beginning where I had a lot of lenders telling me, no, you cannot do it. You cannot do it. But it brought up different opportunities, and it also brought up different challenges that I had to overcome, but there was always something good that happened out of those situations.
Yeah. And, having to save up and buy all cash for your first property, a lot of people would probably give up at that point and say, oh, I can't get financing. I'm not going to do it. So why do you think it is that you actually still went ahead and made something happen when most people would give up?
Yeah, my parents, so it was that call to my dad to let him know that this is what I wanted to achieve. And all of these lenders are telling me that I cannot qualify for a loan because I'm not American and this and that. He told me, Diego, we will figure out a way. And so I always had that mindset. Like in the United States, I came here when I was 9 years old, and my dad told me that the United States is a land of opportunity and there's always a way to achieve what you want to achieve, but it is up to us to find that opportunity. So that mindset for me has been ingrained in me, where like no matter what obstacle, whether I have to work extra long hours, extra hard weekend nights to make that goal happen, I know it's doable for anybody, especially if you're an American. There's a lot of different opportunities for you that some people from my situation, they don't. But I would say that I also have the mindset that it's better to just get started rather than waiting for the best deal or that home run deal, right? I'm like, just get to first base, get to second base instead of focusing on your first deal, and instead of getting the home run, because then you get analysis paralysis. And that's why a lot of people don't pull the trigger.
Yeah. And in a way, do you think it worked out better that you had to fight so hard to get that first deal? Do you think that set you up?
Yes, it did. The reason why is because when I was trying to buy a house here in Austin, I met a realtor who is now my business partner. And we were literally under contract already. The lender at that time said that he could give me a loan. And then later, they found out that I couldn't qualify because of my Social Security and all this other stuff. And I felt bad for wasting his time. So I was like, hey, I'm really good with technology. Let me help you. And we started a friendship that way. And now, fast forward 2 years later, he became my business partner. I drove him around for like 3 weekends just to see if I wanted to become a realtor. Mm-hmm. And I was able to pull the trigger and go from working as a software developer to working full-time as a realtor. And now we have a team and we sell around 65 homes a year. So it's crazy that even though that obstacle of me not being able to qualify for a home in 2013, and I wasn't depressed, but I was like super sad because I wasn't going to be able, like, that's the only way that I knew how to start in real estate. But it gave me that opportunity to be able to have the business partner that I have now. So I just take whatever challenge I have, managed a way to always make it to a benefit for me in the long run.
Oh, well, 100%. And, I've been in a situation myself where I kind of lost everything and I had to get really creative with how I was going. But I think when your back's up against the wall, like you were, like it forces you to work even harder and
Yeah,
expand like how you're thinking about things. Um,
exactly.
yeah. So what would you say is your biggest challenge right now in your business?
My biggest challenge right now has been okay. So the reason why I'm selling the properties in Jacksonville is because I invested in C areas. It's like
Mhm.
C minus, C plus, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, Now the situation was that the first year, the first 2 years were great because it had a long-term tenant and all of that stuff. But then once they moved out, um, the property manager will put a new tenant in there, and then they will pay for 2-3 months, and then they don't pay for the next month. Then we start eviction, and then they leave the property trashed.
Hmm.
So, and this happened multiple times. So then, even though I did buy the properties for 30K and it was renting for 600, right? Which on the number side, it looks awesome, but because of the evictions, and then while by the time they move out, I have to give the property management $3,000 so that they can paint, put new carpet and everything. That began becoming like a routine, and I'm like, okay, no, this is not the way that I want to invest. So I made good money in the first 2 years. The home appreciated. Like it went, we bought one for 27,000, and now we just sold that property this last week for 50K. So I mean, it's sort of like doubled in price, which is awesome. um but the situation or the problem that I was having, and now I'm taking action to change my portfolio around, is by selling those types of properties that were just draining me.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
And have you developed any routines or rituals that have helped make you successful thus far in real estate?
The ritual or the routine that I would say has definitely made me successful in the sense that I've been able to learn a lot is by increasing my network, by basically investing in myself so that I can meet the right people, meet the right mentors. And even though it's not like a habit that I will tell you, hey, I wake up at 6 a.m. and do this and that, for me, leveling up the level of my conversations has been a routine that I do. Like I always try to surround myself with people that I can learn from. And I try to leverage their experience so that whatever it takes them 10, 20 years to get to where they at, it might take me 3 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So I've been investing in mastermind groups and then taking action on whatever they tell me to do.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. And who was it that said you're the sum of the five people you hang around with most? Was
That
that
was Jim Rohn.
Jim Rohn? Yeah.
That was Jim Rohn.
And that is so true. You expand your network and you will be amazed at what happens just by meeting
Exactly.
and talking with the right people.
Exactly. And what happens is they begin to change, like the for example, in the mastermind group that I belong to with GoBundance, there one of the pillars is achieving financial independence, right? So the norm of conversation is, Diego, how much did you increase your passive income this year? Right? So if that's the norm, every time that I meet one of those guys, I want to tell them, hey, I increased from here to here, or this is what I did to change my portfolio, rather than complaining about life or what problems do we have. It's more about how are you increasing the level of your life.
Yeah. No, 100%. So is there a keystone deal? So a property that made a big impact on you and your business that comes to mind?
Yeah. And I would say it was the property that I bought in October or November of 2014. It was my first house hack type property here in Austin. I looked at my expenses because I wanted to achieve financial freedom, right? And I'm like, okay, I can only save $2 or $5 if I save on not going to Starbucks, right, every other day or whatever.
Yeah.
But when looking at my expenses, I saw that my living expenses, my housing, were a lot. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to focus on eliminating that first rather than eliminating the latte that I like to drink. Right.
Yeah.
So in doing that, in wanting to do that, I began to look at different strategies to reduce that living expense, and I stumbled into house hacking. So I bought a home here in Austin for $170,000. I put 5% down, but that time I was a realtor, so I also got a little bit from the commission, and I negotiated them to pay for half of my closing costs. So I was able to get into a property for around $8,000, and I lived in the master and rented out each room. The best house hack layout that I've been able to do has been a 4-bedroom, 2-story house with at least 2.5 baths. So my mortgage was $1,350. I rented out each room for $550 plus bills. So I was making $1,650 every single month. And then that paid for my mortgage and also my car payment. So since I've been 24, I've been living for free ever since. And it has been amazing because I've been able to repeat that process multiple times to the point where my portfolio is now up to 19 doors. Well, 18 because I just sold the other house last week. But yeah, I mean, and it's something that a lot of people will tell me, Diego, you're making great salary at General Motors. You're doing this. Why are you still living with roommates and all this other stuff? But I always had the mindset that if I can do this and sacrifice my privacy for a little bit, I will be able to achieve a lot more in the long run and sacrificing some smaller things in the short run.
Yeah, and I really like how you thought about it. You looked at your Starbucks, and then you looked at your your living expenses, and it's so true. Your living expenses are, besides taxes, are one of your largest expenses that you have. So I really liked how you took care of that first, because a lot of people will just skip the Starbucks, but then they feel miserable, but they're not really doing anything that makes an impact.
Yeah, exactly. And the benefit of that too was that I was able to live for free, right? And then that made it easier to decide in the future to jump into real estate full time, because I put myself in a position where money wasn't really an issue because I didn't have any student loans. Because of my situation as a dreamer, I couldn't qualify for any student loans or financial aid or anything. So that was a blessing in disguise. But so I didn't have any credit debt. And then my only debt was my car and my mortgage. And that was getting paid by other people. So it was awesome. Yeah. It made it super easy to pull the trigger so that when I did wanted to go into real estate full time, it was more, okay, can I survive off like $1,500 a month if that's all I do? Yeah. But now it has been amazing. So
yeah, and what's the feeling like once you finally get there where everything's covered by somebody else?
It gives you a feeling of satisfaction, and it gives you a sense of freedom that now you have options, right? Because at the end of the day, like I didn't say happiness because that really doesn't really make you happy. Because you could be having all your expenses paid for and you're still miserable. But it gave me the opportunity to have options to take a weekend trip to Florida to see my family once a month, to invest into, to like go to events. I was able to go to Tony Robbins and do all other stuff that for some people, it may not be in their budget. But when I reduced my expenses by so much, I was able to have the luxury, quote unquote, to do those things, which were things that I really valued. Yeah. And it came from a guy named Adam Carroll. I heard him say a quote. He says, "You should build a bigger life, not a bigger lifestyle. The lifestyle will come, but I just want to build a big life." And for me, that's experiences.
Yeah. Well, and now you're in a perfect position because you don't have to worry about your living expenses. And now you're able to take that equity from your single family homes and now move that to the multifamily side and really put that on turbo.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's been great, and especially seeing that transition of how my portfolio has evolved and will continue to evolve.
Yeah. And looking ahead, let's say 10 years from now,
Mhm.
Where do you see yourself being in terms of real estate?
In terms of real estate, I see myself. So most of my portfolio is going to be on syndications. That's where I definitely see myself, and teaching other people, especially millennials, how they can achieve a level of financial independence. Because I really like to, my favorite part when I talk about financial freedom or something is when I see the spark in their eyes that are like, holy crap, I can do that too. So that's what gives me a lot of satisfaction, and that's what I want to continue doing.
Yeah. And on the personal side, do you think like what do you see your lifestyle being like in 10 years?
Yeah, lifestyle wise, would I would definitely. That's interesting. Lifestyle wise, I want to be in a position where if I want to take a trip for like a week, so I want to be location independent. That's where I see myself, and that's something that I'm trying to work on right now, where I do not have to be in Austin in order for me to make money on the active side, right? If we're comparing active income versus passive income, on the active side, I want to be doing something more online, or through coaching or something. Where if I want to go to Florida for a week or go travel to Europe, I can totally do that, where money's not an issue.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's awesome. Well, Diego, if somebody's looking to get in touch, learn more about what you're doing, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can go to diegocorzo.com, send me an email to info@diegocorzo.com. But if they want to learn more about house hacking, they can also go to househackingclub.com.
Oh, that's great. Well, Diego, just want to say thanks so much for taking the time today and sharing those awesome tips with us.
For sure. Thank you, Seth. Have a good day.
It was my pleasure. And to you, our viewers, I wish you well on your journey from purchase to profits. See you next time.